great privilege for me and a pleasure to be here this afternoon, this wonderful afternoon, this very Indian afternoon. I remember when I was a kid, people of the earlier generation, those who had grown up under the British rule, when it would drizzle in India somewhere, and I would see my parents look at each other and say, the British used to say home weather when they would see it drizzling. And my first a couple of days here, when I landed in London, I realized why. That's really home weather here. The subject this afternoon is the essence of Vedanta. Do we have a clock here?
Somebody's going to watch your clock on them.
Because my communications teacher used to say that there's an art of beginning a talk and an art of ending a talk. And my students assure me that I've learned the first art. The essence of Vedanta, and I will get down right to it. Vedanta, as we know, as most of us who have been coming here to the Vedanta Center, we know, is the philosophy based on the Upanishads. Vedanta nama Upanishad pramanam. In Sanskrit, a simple introduction, a simple definition of Vedanta is the source of knowledge called the Upanishads. That's Vedanta. Not only the Upanishads, they are supported by the Bhagavad Gita, the Brahma Sutras, comprising the triple canon of Vedanta. Prasthanatraya, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita and Brahma Sutras. And what the Vedanta tells us is very simple. It can be stated straight away. The Vedanta tells us, Tat Tvamasi, thou art that, you are divine. You are God. Now, this is a bombshell. Swami Ranganathanandaji of revered memory was fond of what he said. He used to say, I drop Vedantic bombshells. That might have been an innocuous statement in that generation, but I was assured that you shouldn't use that language when you're going through immigration. Yes, why are you going to the United Kingdom or you're going to the US? Don't say you're going to drop this or that kind of bombshell. We are divine. God and we are essentially one and the same reality. What does that mean? And how are we to know this? And what good will it do us? Those are the themes of this afternoon's discussion. There are different ways of approaching this Vedantic truth. We will take a journey together this afternoon, and I'll ask you to walk with me. I keep getting reminded of these comic books we read as kids, Tintin. There was this situation where this mad scientist, Professor Calculus, he is walking through Atomic Research Institute and is explaining how it works to the two detectives, Thompson and Thompson. And some of you have read Tintin, I think, you remember. And Captain Haddock. And he's explaining how neutrons are emitted, how they cause a fission reaction, a chain reaction. Captain Haddock looks bewildered and furious. And then the professor looks back at Captain Haddock and says, are you following me? And Captain Haddock says with a scowl, of course, I'm right behind you. Not that kind of following, but we'll have to walk together. You see, when Swami Vivekananda would introduce Vedanta to the West in America, he was fond of quoting an ancient Upanishadic mantra, one of the most beautiful mantras. Shrinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha Aye Dhamani Divyani Tastu Vedaham Purusham Mahantam Aditya Varnam Tamasah Parastat Tameva Viditva Ati Mrityumeti Nanya Pantha Vidyate Ayanaya. It's so one of the most elevating texts I've ever read. It means, listen ye children of immortal bliss. We are called children of immortal bliss. Although the first thing that we know, the only certainty that we have in our lives is that We are all going to die. Depressing as that may be, but we all know it. And the Upanishad, the Rishi who, we don't know who composed this verse, he or she, some of them were women, says that we are children of immortal bliss. Listen to what? And he even says that if there are gods in the heavens, you listen to, because what I am about to tell you, you do not know. Vedaham Purusham Mahantam. There is an infinite being, Purusham Mahantam. Purusha here does not mean a man, it means a being, an existence, a conscious existence. Purusham Mahantam. There is an infinite being which I have realized. Vedaham Purusham Mahantam. What is this infinite being like? Aditya Varnam, blazing forth like the sun, just outside with the way you see it. Blazing forth like the sun. Not with a material light like the light of the sun, but with the light of consciousness. Aditya Varnam. Tamasah Parastat. The phrasing is so beautiful. Forever beyond darkness. There is such an existence. And I have realized it. That's the claim. Well, very good. Supposing there is such a thing and you have realized it, what good does it do? Tameva viditva ati mrityumeti. Realizing that one goes beyond death, beyond suffering, beyond human limitation. The age-old quest of humanity, immortality, happiness, transcending sorrow. That is the promise. And nanyah pantha vidyate ayanaya. There is no other path to this. Even today, with all our science, our technology, our art and our culture, our different economic systems, none of this can assure us that we will transcend sorrow, that we will attain immortality. This, I think, captures the essence of all religions. Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Jainism, all forms of mysticism. Basically, it is a promise that there exists something called by so many names. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahudavadan. The truth is one. The wise call it in different names. Call it Brahman or Allah or a Father in heaven or Nirvana. Have it your way. But there is something which if we attain it, we will be fulfilled. This captures the essence of religion. But what I want to draw out here is something strange about this language. You see, tameva viditva. When you know this reality, you will attain it. Look at the word. Viditva literally means having known, knowledge. What could have been the alternative? If you please this entity with multiple sacrifices, if you pray to this entity, if you love this entity, if you love this being, none of that. It says if you know it, if you believe in it. No. The word is if you know it. Tameva viditva. Now, here's an interesting question. How is it possible to become immortal by knowing an immortal entity? If I know something, I do not become that thing. I know this glass, I can see it. I do not, luckily, become a glass. By knowing something, you do not become that. You are the knower of that. You do not become that. There is only one case in which we can become something by knowing it. And what is that case? It is the case of only when we are already that, but for some reason we did not know it. There are such stories in every culture. Swami Vivekananda was fond of that story about Hari the lion, a little lion cub who was born and his mother died at the moment of birth of the cub. And the cub was brought up by sheep. Grew up believing it was a lamb. And one day it used to eat grass and became huge, but still thought it was a lamb and behaved like sheep. And one day there was this huge lion who was stalking the sheep and found a big lion among the sheep. And he was curious. He went and caught hold of that young lion. And that lion bleated, "Let me go, I'm scared, you're scaring me." And he dragged this lion out of the flock and he said, "You are a lion just as I am." "No, sir, please let me go. I am a poor lamb." And dragged the lion to the water and said, "Look at your face and look at my face." And finally the lion understood. So the sheep became a lion, but became only within coats. It was already a lion, or really something that was not a lion. No matter how much it thought of itself as a lion, couldn't become a lion. It's only when it was a lion and had forgotten that or did not know it, knowledge makes the difference. Knowledge makes the difference there. Vedanta says that this infinite being is our own self. Knowledge will make a difference only when God is your own self. Knowledge makes a difference when that divinity, when we are already that divinity, for some reason we do not know it, we do not feel it, we do not experience it. Only then knowledge can help us. If it is a place which you have to go to, if heaven is a place you have to go to, if I have to go to if I have to come to Britain, I can read all about it, I can know all about it, but until I come here, it's not a reality for me. But if I have to know about myself, I'm already there. It's not a place to visit. You are already that. It's not at a particular time that you have to wait for that time, that after death I'll go to heaven and then I'll get heaven. No, you're already that. So knowledge can make a difference in this case. When we already have that infinite being promised by all religions, we have that as our own self already. When? Just now. Where? Just here. Now the question is, where is this infinite being? And the Upanishad tells us, Vedanta tells us, it is your own self. I know myself. If you ask me, I'll show you my passport. This is who I am. But the passport self is not the truth about ourselves. This is what Vedanta tells us. We are in ignorance about ourselves. The knower has to know his or her own reality. I'll repeat that. The whole aim of Vedanta is to educate the knower so that the knower, you are a knower, I am a knower. In Sanskrit it's called pramata. The knower, the pramata, has to know, has to realize the truth about himself or herself. And that is what we are going to investigate in a brief compass this beautiful afternoon. There are many ways to do this. Vedanta is full of such ways. We'll walk through some of these ways quickly. Here's a principle I would like us all to think about. The knower illumines the object of knowledge and is different from the object of knowledge. It is not part of the object of knowledge. What do I mean by that? Just as light illumines this watch here, but light is not part of the watch. Light just illumines it, makes it visible. Similarly, I or you, the knower, we know so many things in the world outside, but we are separate from them. We are not part of that. There is the first verse of one of these little Advaitic texts, the Drigdrishya Viveka, which I'm fond of quoting. It starts off in that way, that it tells us something very, very simple at first, something that we know very well. It says that the I is the knower, I-E-Y-E, I. And the forms of this world are knowledge. Rupam Drishyam Lochanam Drik. And the I which knows the forms of this world is necessarily separate from the forms. And that's true. It's only because the I is separate from this microphone or this table or all these people, that's why the I can see them. In fact, what the eye cannot see is something that is close to the eye. The eyes cannot see themselves. They can see only something at a distance from themselves. That's fair enough. You go deeper. The eye itself is an object of knowledge. You know that your eyes are open, or it's increasingly difficult to keep them open because it's warm and the subject is dry. But the eyes themselves are objects of knowledge to the mind. Tad drishyam driktu manasam. The eyes are objects of knowledge. You know your eyes. Your eyes are open, closed, or you need spectacles, or you need to change up the power of your lenses. You know everything about your eyes. They are an object for you, the mind which thinks about them. Not only the eyes, the entire body, ears, nose, all the sense organs, the whole body is an object of knowledge for the mind. The mind knows the body. And the mind therefore must be separate from the body. Because mind is the knower and the body is the known. Knower and known are separate. You go further. Drishyadhivrittaya sakshi. The mind is also known. After all, what we really know, if you think about it, all that we know is the mind. Think about it. The idealists were right in a way, actually. All that we know throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the month, throughout our lives is what our mind tells us. Whatever comes from the world outside comes through the mind. From the sense organs to the mind. And it is in the mind that the world is displayed for you. And the mind has its own drama also. Happiness, sorrow, desires, frustration, anger, disappointment, ambition, joy, ecstasy, sin, religion, all of that. It's displayed by the mind. So the mind is an object of knowledge, or a collection of infinite number of objects of knowledge. Mind is an object. There is something which watches the mind within us. And that's something the Vedanta is satisfied to call it just the witness, because it witnesses the mind. And we know the knower is separate from the known. So that knower within us is separate from its object of knowledge, the mind. And that, according to Vedanta, is the true knower. That is the real knower. That operating through the mind, through the senses and the body is what we think of ourselves right now. That knower working through the mind and body. And already it's very interesting, because if that is the knower, then it must be separate from the mind and body, because the knower is separate from the known. In that case, all the problems of the mind and the body are not the problems of the knower. Already we have here a tremendous revelation. You see, when you have all these objects on the table, a glass, a wristwatch, and a mic, and the light which falls on all of them. The light is the same. The glass comes and goes, the mic comes and goes, people come into this hall and go away, the light is the same. It is not only different from all the objects it illumines, it is unaffected by them. It is unaffected by them. If the glass is broken, the light is not broken. The light which shines upon the broken glass. In the same way, that consciousness within us, I'm calling it consciousness because it gives us conscious experience. It must be consciousness. That consciousness within us is not affected by the health or the illness of the body. It is not affected by the happiness or by the misery of the mind. Its peace is not disturbed by the disturbance in the mind or even by the peace of the mind. I don't know, in these days of YouTube, a lot of people, they tell me, Swami, are we going to listen to something new today? Because we have heard all your talks on YouTube. And I told them I have nothing new to say, because what I have got to say is thousands of years old. I can only put it in different ways. So there was this, some of you may have heard the story, I tell it often. There was this person who went to the Himalayas to a monk there and said, I'm very miserable, help me, O Swami. And the monk, the higher they live, the more wise they're supposed to, and this monk lived fairly high up in the Himalayas. And he said, well, if you're miserable, are you aware of the misery in your mind? He says, of course I'm aware of the misery in my mind. I'm suffering, that's why I'm here in front of you. Well, if you are aware of if you know the misery in your mind, if you're aware of the misery in your mind, you are the knower of the misery in your mind. And being the knower, you cannot be miserable. You are the knower of the misery in your mind. You must be separate from the misery in your mind. Just as this light is separate from the glass and the watch and the microphone. Think about that. You are the knower of the misery in your mind. You are not miserable. There's a world of difference in saying, I am miserable, and in saying, I am having miserable thoughts. There's a miserable thought, there's a thought of sadness, suffering in my mind. and I am sad and I am suffering, there's a world of difference between the two. You create that all-important gap between yourself and the mind. When you think like this, the real fun comes next. When you think like this, the mind calms down. It actually works. You can try it anytime, it works straight away. But the real fun comes next. This man came back to the Swami and he said, Swami, it worked. I am peaceful. And the Swami scolded him. He said, no, you are the knower of the peace in your mind. You are not peaceful. You see the trap here. The moment the mind calms down, I own it again. And I close the gap between the mind and myself.